World Development System. Chapter 261. A lot of people in the court were quite shocked after hearing Antonio. They could see his determination and resolve to take down Prince Hector with him. Prince Hector, tch, when did he get such balls? If this was the case, why didn't he just die in the war previously? Fourth Prince Yaddle smiled as heard Antonio and spoke, "The great deeds of my brother should certainly have consequences? Don't you think so, my fellow ministers?" One of the ministers smiled and spoke, "True, because of his personal grudge, Elias is broiled up in this meaningless war. We have lost on both the fronts, i.e. land and sea. Who knows what will happen if we send dragon knights as well? I think Prince Hector's position of crown prince and his assets in magic mines down in the south and central should at least be seized for his actions taken against Duke Fjord and Baron Mendez." Sheer spoke, "Ludicrous, just based on allegations you want to punish Prince Hector? Then we might as well punish your son, as according to the rumors he is well known for the gangs he controls behind the scenes." The ministers spoke, "Tch, however much you may try to twist the current subject, but it doesn't change the fact that Prince Hector was responsible for his moves taken against Lord John, which in return resulted in the present situation. I think all of you know the current casualties in the kingdom. How do you guys plan to calm the masses for so many losses of men? Or do you want to say that it was the fault of Duke Fjord, the royal family, Duke Norman and Baron Mendez for incompetence and their greed?" The minister smiled as deliberately asked this question. Minister Shear didn't what to reply, as he knew that the minister deliberately asked this question to create internal conflict. Minister Shear then turned to Law Minister and spoke, "My lord, I hope we can delay this matter since there has been no investigation. It would be quite presumptuous of the court for pointing fingers without evidence." The Law Minister smiled and understood what was going on. He had already gotten an order from the king to delay this matter so as to not stain the royal family's reputation. "Yes, this suggestion is better. We need to start an inquiry before we decide on the punishments just based on allegations." He thought as he looked pitifully at Antonio, "I doubt that he would even survive in the cells. From the looks, King Lionheart wouldn't want him alive. I guess I will try to get more benefits from this scandal." Prince Hector sighed with relief as he heard him. He immediately ordered Alistair, "You know what to do, right?" Alistair nodded. "This will be tricky if Lord John is involved in this scandal. I am sure he is aiming to target us when Antonio is assassinated. I am sure he will manipulate Lord Mendez if we assassinate him." Duke Norman sighed as he watched how the current situation folded. He thought, "I guess we should have killed that idiot long back when we escaped Dolores. Now this will be troublesome. If we kill Antonio in the cells, then that Mendez will harbor an even bigger grudge against me and Hector. This might increase the chance of smuggling of goods from his border, which will hit my industry at the duchy." During this time, the cardinals who were present didn't make a move, as they were quite happy with the result. Cardinal Richard stroked his chin as he spoke, "It looks like Prince Hector will most likely lose his estate and the magic metal mines, since the situation is not in his favor." Richard's subordinate, "My lord, it looks like Prince Luke made his move on Prince Felix. He just came back running from Black Wolf's domain." Richard nodded as he looked at another report and spoke, "It's good for us. However, that Count John seems quite dangerous from the looks of battle casualties. Even Johnson died." Richard's subordinate asked with a grave face, "Lord, what about the oracle which we got from Radiant God, Irmela? Isn't the matter more serious now that we got his divine message after centuries? Even he can't determine his fate. Do we start a crusade against him so that we can nip the bud before it grows?" Richard nodded as he understood the grave situation. He spoke, "True, Lord John is quite an anomaly. A violator of boundaries, a being of chaos as far as gods are concerned, and hence Lord Irmela's divine message. Looking at the way he abhors Radiant Church and other religions and his closeness to other species, I suspect he is under the protection of other god and has a history of bad blood with Radiant Church. He might have been a slave previously, or might have lost his parents to us and hence his enmity towards us. As far as the crusade is concerned, we can't make our move now. We could have moved with Elias when they previously attacked him, but after watching his battle power, I don't think anyone in the church will have thoughts of starting a crusade. Our finest bet is assassination, since we wouldn't want to lose our face again in a battle. A battle again with him right now will break our back, where Elias might seize the chance to annihilate us. Though we might be stronger with our hidden forces, but it cannot guarantee victory, since that count is very cunning. Richard's subordinate sighed. However, because of this oracle, Pope David's position has improved quite a lot. And this is very problematic for us. Richard nodded and spoke, I guess it can't be helped. Even if Prince Lukoff's scandal is released now, he has a secured position unless something big happens. Richard smiled and continued, however, Lord John's existence will be a problem for him. And Lord John might be someone who can or certainly will shake the foundations of Radiant Church and hence an active divine message. You might not know, but the last time an oracle happened was the time when undead sage Xylo used Black Death to annihilate the forces of Radiant Church and Elias. We even lost 2 cardinals in that fight, where Lord Irmela's familiar heroic spirits descended. I guess this time Lord Irmela noticed the presence of Count John and his anomaly in this war, where we had the most casualties. Richard's subordinate was quite shocked, as he wasn't privy to these details previously and understood the gravity of the situation. Meanwhile, John saw a prototype made by Tornwall which was able to create electricity and magic from normal fuels like coal, oil, hydropower, etc. There was a light bulb connected to the power source which was lighting the bulb. Taylor was quite surprised as he looked at the prototype and blueprints. Now, this is a big discovery. With this we can enrich the land with magical energy. Tornwall proudly showed his creations to John and Taylor. Just according to the blueprints, we were able to light the bulbs. As for converting electricity into magic power, it was done with the help of researcher Will. Currently, the glass factory is working quite well. John asked, how were you able to get the materials to make these things? Tornwall patted Will as he spoke. It was researcher Will and his team who helped solve this problem. We replaced a lot of materials with similar properties after watching the properties of materials which were not abundant here. John nodded and understood the current situation. Maybe, I should accept Luke's offer. This will give me some time to stabilize Sky and they would at least recognize us unofficially. What do you guys think? Meanwhile, we will start the electrification of all of our cities and villages. This will greatly benefit everyone. Tornwall asked, however, won't this reveal our new research to the surrounding kingdoms? Taylor thought, well, but this would also enrich us, and it is not like they will have any access to our core technologies. Currently, there is one problem, we have quite a shortage of labor because of all the industries we have set up. All of the guys are employed. I think our influence would increase, our borders are opened, and it would be better for us in the long run. John murmured slowly after hearing his dilemma, I guess I should have robbed Elias and Brindle of its citizens. Maybe I can use all those prisoners whose families can't redeem themselves. Chapter 262. Hearing John's murmur, Taylor panicked and spoke, Lord, we can't go back on our word which we promised Lord Annan. We have to release dwarves or else it would be a dent on our reputation. John nodded as he knew about his promises. What do you think of prisoners of Elias? Taylor had no problem as far as their promises were kept, which would only improve the reputation of Sky. He nodded and spoke, well, I think it is okay as long as it is the prisoners of Elias. We haven't made any promises yet. Meanwhile, we anyway have hostile relations with them. Taylor didn't have sympathy when it concerned Elias because of his past with whether it came to their nobles or the Radiant Church, and hence the apathy. Researcher Will spoke, maybe, we can release the important political prisoners and in exchange keep the other prisoners who can't redeem themselves. We can also allow their families to migrate here since they will be here redeeming for a long time, this way our shortage of labor can be reduced. We might only bear the costs of transportation and protection. Keep the other prisoners for like 5 to 10 years and then let them decide if they want to migrate back. I don't think they will migrate back after living here with their families for 5 years. And those who leave would anyway have good memories as long as we treat everyone fairly. If their families migrate, it will be good for us since we will get more labor. And if there are any political prisoners who have been betrayed by their family and the royal family, we can cultivate them slowly for future. Not to mention, since they are literate, it would be beneficial for us since people are still in a learning process at the various universities. John nodded and spoke, I guess researcher Will's suggestion is good. However, we have to change their political views of those who migrate when it comes to religion, particularly Radiant Church, and also change the political views of those when it comes to the people of other races, or else it will be a big problem for us in the long run. I don't care whether gods exist or not, but Sky's fate will only depend on ourselves and our own morals. The power of the state, king, and the council of ministers shall remain the highest in the Sky Kingdom. We already know the fate of Elias when it gave space to Radiant Church. Or the other countries in our history. Everyone in the meeting hall nodded as they understood the importance of morals and the concept of power remaining in the hands of state, king, and council of ministers. All of them formed checks and balances against each other. An outside power would only be a problem for them. Researcher Will murmured, as far as conversion of fuels into magic is concerned, I believe we might get some unexpected discoveries because of the enrichment of magic power in our current environment. Well, I guess we should only be wary of religions like Radiant Church or others who may try to suck power. Meanwhile, I can start enriching our environment from now on. John nodded and thought, start from the administrative headquarters and my castle. We will slowly enrich our environment with magic power. Previously, when I was talking with Myane, she also spoke about the lack of magic in Elias and the surrounding countries. This may also be the reason why the Lemuria Republic never tried to explore Elias and others. For the first time, Vlad came into John's office without any intimation, even when an important meeting was going on. Vlad came and saw some ministers as they were having intense discussions regarding the current issues. It seems I came at the wrong time. John nodded and spoke, it's okay, Master, since you came in a hurry, I guess there might be some important news. Vlad sighed and spoke, yes, it certainly is. It is related to the Radiant Church. Taylor furrowed his brows and spoke, have they started a crusade or what after getting a big spanking at our borders? Vlad shook his head and spoke. It is more than that. They won't start a crusade over the loss of face. It seems they have received an oracle, and this time it is related to us. After hearing this, most of the people in the room were shocked, while John was making a confused face as he didn't understand the situation. However, looking at the faces of other guys, he understood that the situation was grave. He asked, what is this oracle you speak of, Master? Vlad nodded and spoke to explain, it is a divine message directly sent by gods, the same is true for demonic gods. This time, the radiant god, Irmela, has taken note of your existence and hence the oracle. The talk in church going on is that you are some kind of chaos king in the inner circles of the Radiant Church. They might take some radical actions since it is a direct message from God. Currently, I believe they might try to assassinate you with their special forces since they have faced defeat at our borders in an unprecedented scale and won't risk further losses unless they are sure of your demise. Taylor looked at the prototype which can change fuel to magic power and thought, maybe it is related to our successful project of changing fuel into magic power. John sighed and thought, it seems I have created a problem for myself since gods do exist in this world. If needed, I will root out this menace called Radiant Church. John nodded and spoke, it's okay, thanks for your warning, Master. Taylor, prepare my meeting with Luke. I will be going with our proposal. John looked at his status in the system, which shocked him quite a bit. He had gained 2 titles, one was Creator of Chaos and another title was You Are Being Watched. He looked outside of the window and thought, looks like the situation is quite serious. It seems I have gained something like levels after successfully defeating Elias and Brindil. It seems it is my appraisal skills that have increased. General Nakud and General Endo were currently under house arrest but didn't seem panicked as they were having a time of their life after enjoying the delicacies like cake, ice cream, noodles, which was particularly unknown to them previously. General Nakud, who was immersed in his noodles, murmured, "I guess it isn't bad to be a prisoner when it comes to Lord John's domain. The wine here is particularly good. It was good that I surrendered instead of dying meaninglessly without tasting these dishes. Before going I should ask for these recipes and wines." As a big gourmet, General Nakud appreciated the dishes he was served, and hence his opinion of Sky improved. General Endo meanwhile was currently worried, as he knew what was waiting for him after he returned to Elias. His brother-in-law and his sister wouldn't spare him for such a big blunder. General Endo sighed as he looked the city of Aurora from the balcony. "I guess I underestimated Lord John when I decided to join this war. I guess I was in bad luck when I ran into that guy called Joe." Endo continued as he looked at the city building and the sewage planning. "Just looking at the city planning I can see that he has big foresight and has hidden a lot of his cards. I won't be joining the war against him from next time. I might try my luck in investing here when I meet Lord John later on. From the looks, I don't think anyone can successfully invade them for a long time." Endo called a servant and asked, "Hey, how is it that the tap is giving out water? Is this the work of magic?" The servant shook his head and spoke, "No, sir, it is fitted in all the houses in our kingdom. The water here comes through the pipes. There is no magic involved in this. I think the piping infrastructure was prepared by Lord Tornwall and architect Refone, and also some of the local people who know about the terrain and geography of certain areas. It is just like the bike or the clock tower you see in the city." Endo looked at the tracks which were being built at a fast pace in all of Elias and asked, "What are they building that such an amount of labor and steel is being used?" The servant spoke as he too noticed the tracks. "Even I don't know about that, but apparently it is being built in all the cities in Sky, whether it Aurora, North Frontier City, Winter City, or the recent 9 settlements city at the north of North Frontier City. Basically it is being built all over Sky. Lord John has personally funded a lot on this project, and hence the enthusiasm from people. It is being said that it will improve transportation for people and goods in the Sky Kingdom, and hence the project. I guess they made another discovery, and hence the use of normal laborers as well as the magicians to increase the efficiency." Endo was quite alarmed as he understood the situation. It seems they are growing at quite a fast pace. No wonder Lord John wasn't afraid to rebel. It seems he deliberately baited us to attack him so that he can justifiably rebel in front of outer power. Chapter 263. Currently, John was tending to the guy who was in a coma previously, who came from Greenwood's village previously when it was attacked. After giving the potion he recently made, John spoke, "Keep a lookout for him, he would wake up in a few days. Give this potion to him 3 times every day." The North Frontier Hospital's chief doctor nodded and spoke as he accepted the potion bottle, "Yes, my lord. I will look after him. It's good that he can wake up early. We were quite worried about him when the war started." John nodded as he prepared to see other matters and was about to leave. "I guess finally the mystery of this kid will be solved." Gray, who was behind John, spoke proudly as they got some info on the kid. "My lord, we have got some information about this boy after we captured some of the soldiers from Prince Hector's personal army." John nodded and signaled him to speak. Gray continued after watching his approval, "Apparently, this boy had just joined their army, but because of his great talents, he was noticed early and promoted to the regular army. As for his name, he was known as Aiden in their team. However, there is one peculiarity." John spoke as he was quite interested. "Speak." Gray knew that John didn't Radiant Church and hence spoke a bit cautiously. "It seems he is a servant of God of Fire." John nodded and asked, "What are the doctrines of God of Fire? Are they a threat to the state and monarchy?" Remembering about Fire God and their followers, Gray spoke, "I don't think so. If you don't bother, they won't bother you. However, they believe they must live their lives morally, and hence they are not suited for professions such as spying or assassinations." John nodded and understood. It's better. They won't be a problem. They are manageable if that's the case. I don't want to raise something like Radiant Church which will cause chaos in the future like they are doing it in Elias. Our state will run on morals, ethics, and state interests, not on ideological or religious doctrines. Gray nodded as he too understood the personality of John which aligned with his own thinking. John meanwhile reminded Gray, "You should go and help Taylor in managing the spies meanwhile. I heard there were problems at Imperial Capital. Taylor has the rights to manage Antonio's matters so you can follow his policies. However, you must write a report to me directly." Keeping checks and balances in mind, John told to Gray for reports. Meanwhile, at the Imperial Capital, Taylor had already activated their spies and was keeping a watch in the Imperial City for any suspicious movements via his spies. One of the spies under Diril spoke, "Remember this, we can't save him from the shadows. His enemies should show up near him and reveal their plans so that Baron Mendez can become a good chip for Lord John, or else he will always have some sort of hate against our lord." The other spy spoke, "In short, if the royal family or Prince Hector's men move, then we have to wait until the last moment and then save him, correct?" "Yes." The leader of the team sighed and spoke, "Quite a tough job." The subordinate spy under Diril spoke, "That is why you guys will be paid triple and will receive extra state benefits at your retirement. The premise is classification." The guy spoke and nodded his team to go through the plan thoroughly. "Yeah, we already know that. You guys should get ready. Those guys from Radiant Church are already behaving and moving suspiciously." King Lionheart was quite pissed at Duke Norman and Count Casey because of their differences in about this particular scandal involving Hector. He immediately asked Plato, "What do we do? I think we should kill that nuisance, Antonio, in the prison. Or do you have any other suggestions? And why can't both Casey and Norman solve their differences?" Plato sighed and spoke, "I differ, my lord. This will have consequences where nobles will start doubting the royal family when it comes to justice. Though there will be a lot of supporters, however, many will become cautious of the royal family as well. I recommend to prolong this case as long as possible and take Antonio under house arrest. After a few years we will cover up this case when no one remembers. Or else Baron Mendez might be a pain for us in future if Antonio dies. You should know that Antonio, in the end, he is Mendez's son and he wouldn't want to watch him die." Plato continued, "As for the difference between Count Casey and Duke Norman, it won't go away easily because it is based on interests and honor. Previously Count Casey didn't deploy troops for Duke Norman's invasion as he didn't trust his neighboring domains as well as in the success of previous war as he had first-hand watched the power of ballistas. And as Prince Hector is Duke Norman's closest ally, it was expected that he won't leave any chance to get back on the insults he faced previously from the Duke." Lionheart sighed and spoke, I guess I can only let them solve their differences. Okay, we won't interfere in their business. Why do you recommend taking Antonio under house arrest?" Plato nodded and explained his line of thinking, "For two things. First, Lord John of Skye is continuously putting pressure on us in regard to Antonio. They want a fair trial. It may also impact our trade and peace deal with them, as Luke informed us. It seems it is due to their hatred for Prince Hector and hence their support for Antonio. I also think he is manipulating us so that we kill Antonio and they have guys to not deal with us when it comes to mana-restoring pills. Second, we can fan the flames of revenge on Antonio against Lord John and Mendez. It's a carrot and stick policy. Keep him happy and he might do our bidding since he won't anyway inherit his father at Dolores, since now that main inheritor will be Vince, his elder brother. However, if we kill him in prison, then it will have negative consequences, whether it is trade and peace deal or our relations with Lord Mendez will be at an all-time low. He might resist all our policies for the next decades if that is the case. One of important factors is, Skye is at the borders of the Dolores domain and from now on Duke Norman's new domain as well. So it can become a situation like Duke Fjords where Mendez will threaten us by allying with Skye. And I am certain if we are going to trade with Lord John, he will definitely choose familiar borders of Dolores and nearby regions instead of Norman's border, who will be hostile to him because of Prince Hector." Lionheart nodded and understood as he asked his doubts, what about Hector and that Antonio's grudge with Hector? I don't think he will leave his revenge so easily. Not to mention the Greenwoods village scandal which was done on the orders of Hector and partly Antonio. Plato sighed and nodded, yes, and there is also Prince Hector who might try to kill him. However, it has to go this way. The only thing is Antonio will no longer be in Hector's camp and he might get purged if Prince Hector comes to power. Antonio might join Prince Yaddle's camp since he is always in need of power. As far as Greenwood's village massacre is concerned, Prince Hector can simply ignore and treat it as ramblings of a poor sod who was abandoned by him and hence his ramblings. Lionheart sighed and spoke, I guess this is inevitable and also the best solution. Additionally, those mana-restoring pills and other new technologies at Sky are very important to us. Those elders are already chewing my brains every day since a lot of magicians are leaving for other countries. Those magicians are temporarily been detained and given the best treatment. Start the trade routes and sign the peace deal. We have anyway unofficially accepted Sky as a state and John as their king. During his crowning ceremony send him a gift so as he is not offended. Additionally, I am already worried about God Ermela's oracle. I don't like the thing about gods interfering over here. If a new pope is chosen by him then it will be a disaster for us since he will have a lot of power among the radiant followers. Plato too understood and simply nodded as he too wanted to curb the influence of the radiant church which would only increase after the oracle. Presently, Alastair was preparing the assassins to kill Antonio in the cells under the orders of Prince Hector. Chapter 264. Alastair sighed as he looked at the men from Radiant Church and murmured, I guess hiring them should be worth it. They anyway have a conflict with each other. Prince is anyway determined to kill him. Alastair looked at them seriously and spoke, okay, I am sure you guys know what to do, right? The leader appointed by the Radiant Church nodded and spoke lazily, yet. We were briefed by our superiors. Alastair gave a token and spoke, you will be provided internal help from the guards to infiltrate the prison barracks. Just show this token. They will immediately back off knowing the situation. However, there can be a situation if Prince Felix's men are there and that is why we have hired you guys. It would be better if you can make it look like an accident when it comes to Antonio's death. The leader smiled and spoke, you don't have to worry about Prince Felix's men interfering with us. He is relaxing at Radiant City currently and Pope David anyway is in favor of killing Antonio as he would be an obstacle for us in future. Since they believe this scandal is probably one of Lord John's conspiracy against Hector. As for making it look like an accident, it would be hard but we will try, however don't expect anything when it comes to an accident. Alastair nodded and asked, okay, when will you start the operation? Leader thought and spoke, afternoon. Most of our preparations are already done. Only execution and a final check is left. We will start after the final check is done. Nodding, Alastair signaled his men to bring a big chest full of gold coins for the assassins. This is the advance, the other half will be given after you complete the mission. If the mission fails, you won't get the other half. The leader looked at the chest and then at his mates as he smiled and spoke, let move. Contact others so that we can leave the city if guards take notice of us when assassination is done. The leader then spoke to Alastair, if the assassination is complete, pay the other half at the local church giving our code. They will understand immediately. At this time, the spies which were keeping a look at Imperial City noticed suspicious movements in a run-down Radiant Church. There were suspicious individuals who started moving out. Diryl's subordinate spoke as he looked at his subordinates that gave him the report, it looks like they have started moving. Any changes in plan, my lord? Diryl was a bit miffed when it came to saving Antonio but understood the intentions of his master, Vlad, and John. It's good, our only job is to escort that scum back to Dolores. Well, saving him would definitely give us more dividends. I just hope it is worth it. Anyway, tell Taylor's men to start moving. Our men will move according to the plans. Diryl's subordinate nodded and spoke, yes, my lord. I will immediately inform them. Diril meanwhile was at loss on how he lost against John previously in a spar. I never expected him to get so strong in such a short time. I am sure even Master is scared by the rate of his progress. I guess Master took him under his belt for the same reason. Currently, Duke Friedrich was quite happy as he heard the news of Fire Abyss King ordering to reduce the army at his borders. He spoke quite happily while Elder Ryan was in his thoughts, as expected of my son-in-law. What do you say, old man? Now, do you agree with Diana's choice? Elder Ryan murmured, I guess you are right, but there is still a difference in our bloodlines. You must understand that John is a human and we aren't. Friedrich snorted and spoke, what about bloodlines? In the end, brothers themselves try to kill each other for power. Haven't you seen that same in the last century in almost all the domains in Fire Abyss Kingdom except the Thorn family? And as soon as we demons gain power, we start infighting like cats and dogs. When I see this, I don't see any difference between us or the other races. And anyways, Diana likes that man but is too proud to express it. I might as well solve that problem before that hag Melanie snatches my son-in-law. Elder Ryan sighed and no complaints as he understood that this alliance with John would anyway benefit them. Without waiting for anyone to interrupt, Friedrich spoke to his minister, prepare for a journey, I will be traveling to Sky Kingdom for John's ceremony. I might as well have a look at my son-in-law. I have only looked at him from the newspapers. Old man Ryan, when the people from King Apollyon come you know how to handle them, right? If they are asking for removal armies then it will be done in phases. As far as bandits are concerned we will handle them. I don't think anyone has any problems with regards to my decisions. After going to his chambers, he thought, I haven't seen my child for a long time and Vlad as well. This is quite a good chance to ditch work and give it in the hands of that grumpy old man. I was quite shocked when I read about their new general. It seems according to Vlad, John is the same General Anak who fought previously in the war. I guess John wants to keep it a secret from his ministers. Friedrich smiled as he remembered his old days, however, I don't think he can keep it a secret for a long time. Anyway, I need to be careful of the old hag who might steal my son-in-law first. Melanie sneezed as she looked at the incense. She sighed with relief and thought, good that it wasn't damaged. Melanie was quite happy, as her recent experiment had become successful. Melanie's pharmacy had now been expanded after a number of reforms and currently, Dwight was handling the pharmacy. The sign on Melanie's room finally changed and it was okay to enter. Looking at the sign, one of the guards came and gave Melanie about the information which took place during these few days. She murmured, I might use that boy Dwight to help Eva. It seems he isn't misappropriating funds or drugs in my shop. I might as well reward him. Anyways, after this experiment, my plans will finally be successful. She looked at the report and thought, it seems John took the decision to secede, however I guess I was worrying about nothing. From the looks of it, they got a big victory, both in sea and land. I might as well see his cure about Black Death. This very creation will make him a grand pody winner. Now that the situation has calmed down a little I should try at this incense. She smiled and looked at the incense. After thinking a bit, she looked at Dwight and spoke as she thought, hey come here. Give it to Eva and tell her. No, you don't have to give it to her, all you have to do is, when Eva and John are having a meeting, you have to burn this incense in the meeting room and leave. If you do it I will make you at least my basic apprentice, or you can at least get any formulae you want apart from the 3 top formulae I made. However, this shouldn't be leaked to anybody. Dwight was quite happy that his perseverance had finally paid off. He thought, finally, I can have a chance to get promoted in the upper circles of Elias as well as Sky. I guess it was good that I heeded the call of my mother on not to cheat great-grandma. Melanie meanwhile thought while laughing cunningly, if the rice is cooked, even John won't escape responsibility knowing his personality. Chapter 265. As a communication crystal transferred the message, Luke sighed with relief as he got confirmation from Plato about Antonio and how he would be dealt. He thought, it seems they are finally thinking with their brains and not muscles. I guess Lord Irmela's oracle too might have an effect on them, and hence they are becoming cautious of the Radiant Church. During the last oracle, they created havoc and also assassinated the king. I guess this time, their spear will turn towards Lord John, so we are safe for a while, but they will eventually turn their spear towards us as well, as they would try to rule us. It seems the gods are finally going to move, and this might have nerved the king. I better go and meet Taylor already. Who knows if he changes his mind on the deal. Those elders will blame me if the deal isn't successful and they don't get those mana-restoring pills. After finally being able to arrange a meeting with Taylor, both immediately got down to business. Taylor immediately asked Luke, who was in a hurry to meet him, "I am sure you are not here to chit-chat. Are you?" Luke sighed as he looked at Taylor with a new light since their last conversation before the war started. "Nope. It is business. Our ministers have agreed to Sky's request and we want to renegotiate. Antonio won't be treated unfairly. As far as trade is concerned, we have also relaxed the ban on trade from Sky and our ministers have started the groundwork. After the peace deal is signed, apart from the core industries i.e. magic stones and ores that are always low in quantity, all the items of trade will be relaxed. In return, we hope to get buying rights in mana-restoring pills and those medicinal cures which you invented recently like the other countries. We hope to trade in almost everything. If there are special circumstances, we are also willing to trade in core industries. Currently, we are more interested in the ships built by you guys. Inferior ones are okay as well. But we want ones that are better in quality as compared to Duke Fjord Laguna. This you have to make sure." Taylor was quite shocked as he asked surprisingly, "Aren't you worried about offending two lobbies together, one the healthcare and other Duke Fjord's shipbuilding?" Taylor thought, "I thought the negotiations would take quite some time. I guess we can complete it real early this time around." Shaking his head, Luke answered, "Nope, I think you guys might also be aware of Lord Irmela's oracle. We are going to curb the Radiant Church and its influence via using the medicines from Sky. As for Duke Fjord, he has long been blackmailing both us Elias and the dwarves because of his shipbuilding tech. The last war anyway exposed your ships as well as the performance of Duke Fjord's ships. So we are going to teach him a lesson. Previously we made wrong choices and supported Duke Fjord, which offended Lord John, which in turn led to the secession of North Frontier City. After my previous conversation with you, I understood that your lord certainly has some principles when it comes to loyalty to state, as he wouldn't secede on dubious reasons. I guess he purposely baited and exploited Elias's greed and Prince Hector's petty behavior to his benefit to secede rightfully. Well, this is politics and I can't blame him." Luke continued as he sighed, looking at the development of Sky, getting back to the point. "So what do you say about our cooperation to reduce Radiant Church's influence and Duke Fjord's influence too?" Taylor was quite shocked after hearing such a juicy proposal, though it is inappropriate for me to speak. "Aren't you guys worried about our increased influence in your kingdom when it comes to healthcare?" Luke smiled mysteriously as he sipped his wine and spoke, "Nope, rather than having one tiger on the mountain who is always ready to chew us out when we are injured, Defense Minister Plato would rather have two wolves fighting each other and not worry about getting injured when one tries to stab us. Your cheap medicines as compared to the services of Radiant Church would also help us tarnish the image of the Radiant Church's despicable behavior. In this propaganda, we will help you. If you guys want to open a printing press, it will be under our jurisdiction when it comes to politics. Meanwhile, you guys can openly tarnish the image of Radiant Church and Duke Fjord. However, when it comes to Prince Hector, only opinions from King John himself or top ministers like you will be allowed, as both of them have a grudge and we can let it slide. As for King, Queen, and his concubines, you guys can't comment. However, we won't force you to tarnish the image of our political opponents as well. Currently, we will also be subsidizing the medicines and open government operational stores to the common public so that this increases the use of medicines for the common public." Taylor thought of the previous report sent by Diril and spoke, "Now this is interesting. I guess you guys are preparing for a war against Radiant Church. Well, what if Prince Hector tries to kill Antonio? Won't all of your plans be ruined? Hearing Taylor's tone, Luke was sure that his spies got some information on Prince Hector. He worriedly spoke, "What? He is moving already." Looking at Taylor, he hurriedly asked, "How did you guys know about it?" Taylor smiled mysteriously and gave vague answers, "Well, we have our sources. It seems he has employed the Radiant Church's men to deal with Antonio." For the first time, Luke cursed, "Curse that bastard! He will ruin all of our relations and lead this country to ruin." He worriedly asked, "Do you guys have any way to stop this assassination?" Taylor thought a bit and spoke, "Well, yet, but if we stop this assassination, Antonio will have to be transferred to Sky." Luke furiously shook his head and spoke, "No, that is impossible. This will be a slap on our face. This is an internal matter no matter what. We can't let this happen when we are improving relations." Taylor smiled and spoke calmly as he watched Luke's reaction, which was within expectation. "Well, he can die as well. His assassination will most probably be started this afternoon. I am sure you know how the guards don't interfere in political matters and are easy to bribe." Taylor pretended to thought a bit and spoke, "How about this, transfer Antonio to Dolores under his father? Because this problem will persist as long as Prince Hector is determined to get rid of him. However, we will not stop this assassination for free. My king already knows this situation and has given me the full rights to handle it as I see fit. So what is your decision?" Luke thought a bit and spoke, "Okay, this is acceptable. What do you need in return?" Taylor, "People." Looking confused, Luke asked, "What do you mean by people?" "Political pawns." Taylor spoke, "Well, I mean exactly what I said. Not political pawns. Currently, we have a vast land now thanks to expanding the other areas, and we are in a shortage of labor. Well, the races of people don't matter. Meanwhile, we will be keeping the prisoners if you don't agree, and this includes General Endo and other noble sons. We will be paying 10 gold coins for each person if you agree." Watching the carrot and stick tactics, Luke almost vomited and thought as if he was standing in front of Plato and negotiating. He spoke without caring, "Races don't matter, correct? Okay, we will agree." Taylor smiled as he watched Luke agreeing to his wishes. "You guys don't have to worry about transportation and food costs. It will be borne by us. However, if you are sending slaves, you better free them before they are handed over to us. Remember, this is not a slave trade, so they must be treated appropriately. So choose people wisely. And yes, I won't remind you again, so remember it thoroughly. If other nobles of your kingdom visit our kingdom and discriminate races or try to bring physical harm or bring their own slaves and discriminate them, it will still be regarded as the breaking of a law. So tell them beforehand when they travel here." Taylor continued, "You must understand that the founding of our kingdom is based on certain ideals, and they will be pursued to ends even if it means breaking our foreign relations. Being of noble birth won't give anyone privileges, however your action would. I know you understand this since you have spent a lot of time here. However, you must issue a travel advisory to the nobles who would think otherwise." Luke thought a bit. Understood. I guess this discrimination is also the result of Radiant Church's influence over the years. From the historical books, I understand we had quite good relations with other races apart from demons, since both us demons and humans vied for hegemony. I will talk to King Lionheart and Minister Plato about this. Maybe we can use this as propaganda against Radiant Church. As for people, you don't have to worry, we will transfer enough people. You only have to keep your wallets ready." Luke smiled and thought, "Well, I guess King won't be worried since he would be earning 10 gold coins for every person. Those guys won't be paying 10 gold coins in taxes in whole lives anyway, since many are slaves." Taylor spoke, "I forgot to mention, the soldiers' families would have to redeem themselves based on their position in the army or their influence in kingdom politics." Chapter 266 Luke thought that since they were prisoners of war it was natural and spoke without much consideration of the topic. Of course, we understand those rules. That won't be a problem. However, you can't charge the nobles overwhelmingly. What I mean is, there should be a standard and personal grudges or vendetta can't be allowed after negotiations. Taylor got to his main point and spoke, that's okay, we too will be redeeming our spies and soldiers caught in the war. They won't be entering Elias from on if they are agreed to be released. So it's a give and take situation. Taylor meanwhile thought, I wonder how many million gold coins will be spent on this migration endeavor. I guess it can still be redeemed by extorting the nobles that we caught previously in the war. It was good that we found several gold mines at Aurora and 9 Settlements City, or else we would be forced to export our technology earlier to balance the treasury. Taylor spoke and gave him a hint of some policies. Yes, King John's coronation will be held in a month. The trade and peace deal with Elias will be signed in 2 days, so you guys won't lose face. Currently, we are going to start minting our own gold coins and start our own currency. There will also be the paper currency which we will be using, and it would be easy for future business transactions. Luke asked with a confused and angry face, paper currency? Are you guys playing with your economy? I thought King John was quite a brilliant man when it came to managing a state or domain, even when he was at Elias. How can you guys play like this? Taylor spoke, don't worry, those paper currency will be supported by gold coins in the various branches of our banks. Anyway, I will inform my spies to act and save Antonio now that we have agreed to the deal. You must inform Plato immediately. If my men are caught and treated unfairly, then bear the consequences. Taylor smiled and thought as Luke made an angry face over the paper currency, well, our main aim is to control the gold which comes in or goes out of our treasury and keep an account on it. You guys won't understand the brilliance of these paper currency unless you use it yourself. Suddenly Plato's voice came from the crystal ball which was inside Luke's pocket, you don't need to worry about that, Luke. Taylor, you can activate the operations of your men without hesitation in the Imperial City. As for Hector, I will deal with him if he tries to create any more ruckus. You don't need to worry. However, I don't want your media to report Antonio's assassination on your papers. Just report it as normal transfer procedure for a fairer trial. Plato thought, I guess they want to control the flow of gold coins in their kingdom via the use of these paper currency. I need to warn His Majesty early on. Luke sheepishly looked elsewhere so as not to meet his eyes with Taylor, while Taylor looked at the crystal ball and spoke, okay, that won't be a problem. Taylor took his small communication stone and spoke, Dear Gray, you can order your men to start. Taylor then looked at the big crystal ball and spoke, I don't think you would reveal yourself for no reason unless there is a problem. Plato nodded and spoke, well, this was an important treaty that needed to be signed and hence my presence. I heard that you guys are apparently investing millions of gold coins on transportation and some wires throughout the households of Sky's various territories, even the new 9 Settlements City is upgraded as per the required future needs. And I guess that is also the reason you guys are in shortage of labor, unlike what you project for vast lands for agriculture, right? Because I know that Guy, Mist and Allison are also there to help you guys with their nature magic. So I don't think you guys would have any problem in the next harvest no matter the shortage of labor. Taylor sighed and thought, I guess he is talking about trains and electrification. It seems we still have some spies or blabbermouths who can't keep their mouth shut. I guess such a big project can't be done under the wraps anyway. Well, there were many loopholes in my excuse in the first place. I will try to give him as less information as I try. Taylor sighed and spoke, I guess it can't be hidden. Yet, we are transforming our transportation network for better connectivity. As for those wires, even I don't know much. It is under the jurisdiction of Tornwall and Professor Will. Plato thought, I guess he won't reveal much anything as of now. We will know the results slowly later on anyway on both those wires and transportation network. We can't lag behind any other country if we hope to rule everyone or at least compete with others. After waiting for some time, Plato hesitantly asked, are you guys interested in sending the concrete and cement to Elias? We saw that the building time in Rose's domain has reduced a lot due to these ingredients, which have saved a lot of labor and time. We would also like to contract you guys for building the road network in Elias. However, there will be a time period requirement. Plato had already experienced the results of a better transportation network and hence asked hesitantly. Taylor smiled and understood that they have seen the results in Pearl City and Duke Rose's domain, so he asked, "Well, why are you guys suddenly raining flowers on us? I am kinda getting suspicious. Were you guys really our enemies previously?" Plato answered sheepishly, "Ha ha ha, there is nothing suspicious about it. The answer is simple, it is because both Brindle and Fire Abyss are doing the same. I don't want Elias to lag behind them in years due to political differences of the past caused by Prince Hector. And after watching the development of Pearl City to a city comparable to Imperial City just within a year, I am quite surprised, and hence I am sure we will have great results. From what I know, they saved a lot of labor costs and were able to maintain law and order at the trade routes, which has inevitably attracted traders because of the reduced mercenary costs and travel costs." Plato continued, "This time, I am going to invest in Lord John instead of Prince Hector, Duke Fjord, or compromising with the Radiant Church. There are dangerous movements being carried out by Radiant Church, and hence I want to nip them in the bud." Plato thought, most importantly, John is quite a cunning individual and thinks of dangers ahead of time. Just looking at the way he is treating religions as a political entity means he knows what danger they pose in the future and what could happen after he dies. I guess his only weakness is that he is not imperialistic in nature. It seems this is because it is the first time he has tasted power or has other plans or other foresight. I wish I worked under him and could influence him to dominate the whole continent. I guess I am too greedy to have a very sturdy political foundation of a kingdom. Just looking at the way the Radiant Church has increased its influence in Elias. I wish I could turn back time and nip them in the bud. Well, there is still time. This trade deal is quite important to us. Their very hegemony because of light magic has caused a lot of headaches to us. This time they will be crushed for sure. Or maybe we can try the demon's way when the Fire Abyss family crushed the Netherworld Church, but we don't enough power and resources to try those endeavors. Anyway, betting on Lord John is safer as he already has a grudge with Radiant Church." Plato asked to conclude the deal, "Would you guys be taking back your army at your borders from Dolores? And what are your thoughts in regards to investment in Sky from Elias?" Taylor reassured him, "Yes, we plan to withdraw in batches and as Baron Mendez forms his local army after the treaty is signed. We will soon make a policy for foreign investment. Most likely it will be open to everyone without restrictions, as Milord believes in more trade to improve the quality of life for people. However, those foreign investments will be under our scrutiny from our various departments, so they can't be used by people with malicious intent. The most important thing will be, people will have to obey our laws strictly." Plato nodded and thought, "I guess Lord John really isn't interested in expanding his borders and is intended on securing the internal situation first. He may try to be imperialistic in the future and we must be careful of that. I wonder how would their paper currency work? I hope it goes down in the gutter and we benefit from this to make a recovery." Chapter 267. Concluding the talks, Plato spoke in a relaxed manner as if a heavy burden was released from his shoulders. "We look forward to the trade and peace treaty 2 days from now and also your foreign investment policies." Both Taylor and Plato had cunning smiles as both were grinning for getting the better end of the trade peace deal. Taylor thought as he smiled and lead Luke out, "I guess we benefited from this deal. However, it seems Lord Plato plans to amend his relations with us even if it means losing a bit of face. I guess he is not a defense minister and main counselor to the king without reason. King Lionheart will be the one who will be mostly anguished because of this deal, but I guess he understands the importance of this deal. It seems Plato is determined to go through with this deal and recover from the losses in the previous war." Luke was wondering about the deal on why did Lord Plato, who used to be always arrogant, yielded so easily to the new king of Sky John this time around. Luke thought and came to a conclusion, I guess this is because of Radiant Church and hence Plato's investment in Sky and taking a clear position against Lord Hector to amend his relations with King John. It seems Elias is going to face turbulent times since Lord Plato has taken a position against Lord Hector and the Radiant Church. I take King Lionheart has already given tacit approval to Plato's position since he wants to end this war as soon as possible. Concluding the talks, the crystal ball stopped glowing and was back to normal as Luke took it back. Luke sighed as he headed to his mansion which was recently built after concluding the talks. Plato sighed and thought, I guess Taylor butchered us for real in these rounds of negotiations. I guess our real takeaway from these negotiations was inviting Sky and Elias with their medicines and shipbuilding to curb Radiant Church and that money-hungry fjord. I guess I need to start focusing on the development of Grand Podewunner Melanie's great-grandson, Dwight. However, we need to solve the case of Eva's parents who died 20 years ago so as to improve our relationship with Miss Eva and Grand Podewunner Melanie. Okay, I will tell the prosecutors to look into it for now. I wonder if their experiment with paper currency will work or go down the drain. Anyways, we can't allow the paper currency in Elias when we start our trade. I will ask King to make only gold, silver, and copper coins, etc. to be legal for trade. That paper currency will only be allowed in the upper class for now and see what are its implications. Plato's apprentice who had been watching his master for a long time, asked, Master, is it worth it to make such a big deal with King John? Plato sighed and spoke, well, we had two choices, 1. To get swallowed by Radiant Church and dwarves while making Sky our enemy at the same time or 2. Make all of these powers fight against each other at the same time. And it seems though Sky is aware of our plan but they still want to deal a blow to Radiant Church and Fjords at least. And only this kind of big deal was juicy enough to invite Sky into Elias and also make a peace deal so as to lessen the tension at our borders currently. A lot of soldiers are deserting their posts after hearing about the weapons of Sky so we need to improve the morale of our army at least. He continued, and currently, Radiant Church is the biggest threat to Elias now that an oracle has dawned from the Radiant City's church. From what I know, Pope David's disciple will be the next head of the church and the Holy Son according to the oracle. To prove the worthiness of this oracle, I guess there will be a big event. Something like an eclipse of the two moons together which has rarely happened and most of the time in our history it was due to an oracle by churches or demon gods. I guess this eclipse will be during King John coronation ceremony to intimidate others from following his footsteps. Plato's disciple nodded and understood, I see, so it seems Radiant Church will be a direct threat to Elias since the gods are directly getting involved and hence the urgency to decline their influence in Elias. Plato smiled and spoke, correct. And this is why King is willing to negotiate with Sky as he understands the consequences of giving space to the Radiant Church from the history of the previous centuries. However, he also sees this conflict between Radiant Church and King John as a chance to root out Radiant Church from Elias while weakening Sky at the same time. But this time, John most likely knows this but because of his conflict with Radiant Church I guess he is prepared for a fight. Plato's disciple nodded with an understanding and spoke, no wonder Elias has given so many concessions to Lord John in this deal. Knowing the ego of ministers and king, they wouldn't have bowed down without having a more bigger deal in our favor. I guess they would still be happy at the prospect of selling slaves for 10 gold coins since they deem them those slaves worthless. Plato sighed and spoke, I wonder selling people is a good deal or a bad deal. From what I know, King John is quite a cunning guy and he still hasn't made a loss-making deal from the time he came to prominence. When Luke agreed to sell people, I could see that Taylor felt as if he has achieved his target so that is why I wonder if people were his main goal in this deal. Additionally, my instincts say that King John is making a very big profit from this deal. Well, we will sell the demons and other violent species to them first so as to disrupt his plans. Before leaving Plato instructed his disciple, yes, I would like to introduce a new system of security domestically. There was something called police in North Frontier City as what I heard from the reports of our spies. The army and police were completely divided and came under different jurisdictions and hence more flexibility. You can start the preparations. I will ask the king later on. At the imperial capital of Elias. On the orders of Taylor, Dirrell, and Gray's group of spies started their action. Meanwhile, Plato was organizing his men to keep a watch on the movements of Hector, Alastair, and the Radiant Church. However, to Plato's dismay, Radiant Church's men had already started moving and were inside the prison barracks after bribing the officials, and it was too late for him to stop the assassination. Plato rubbed his glabella and instructed his disciple, "You should keep a watch on Hector and his butler Alastair. If their assassination fails, I am sure he will try to pull something else. So inform me immediately if he tries to do anything. I don't care if he knows that we are keeping a watch on him, but make sure to trace their movements. Meanwhile, I will inform the king about this deal with John and his conditions right now." His disciple nodded and headed to spy division. "Okay, master. I will try my best." Plato thought, controlling that butler Alastair would be very hard. Well, even if he is delayed, then it would be worth it. At present, Antonio was inside a special cell made for political prisoners and nobles. Currently, he was having his meal as he remembered of the delicacies which were at Dolores because it was influenced by the North Frontier city. He sighed and thought, "I guess I was pretty petty-minded when I confronted Lord John and got played in the hands of Hector and Norman. No, it was more likely my greed for more power." He gritted his teeth, thought balefully, "I wonder when will they make their move on me? I guess I am paying for my sins. If I get a second chance, then I will certainly become the biggest thorn for Prince Hector and his road for throne. And there is a need to again apologize to my father for my reckless behavior. He is most likely angered at the Greenwood Village massacre which I ignored due to Hector and Lord Duke. Well, even if I die, I am taking down Hector and his reputation with me." King Lionheart sighed with relief as well as frustration. He heard Plato. He spoke after some careful considerations, "I guess this was inevitable when it comes to Hector. This time you can make the decisions, since Antonio's life is very important to complete this deal with the Sky Kingdom. I guess he is deliberately doing this so as to avoid making a deal with us. He would most likely want that Antonio dead from our very own hands so that he manipulate and use Baron Mendez to do his bidding. We can't fall for this simple trick. Let John and Hector continue their fight. You can ignore it and just treat it as a nuisance. We won't interfere in their face slapping anyway. I hope this lesson at least improves Hector's petty-mindedness and makes him a better leader for the future." King got serious and asked the important details. Back to the important details. "Is there any news on mana-restoring pills?" Plato spoke carefully as he knew about the importance of mana-restoring pills. "No, I have been cautious this time around. But I was successful in pitting Sky and Radiant Church against each other by allowing their drugs in Elias. I hope this affects the influence of Radiant Church, since they are always looking for more followers, and in this way, we can sell the poor folks to Sky without coercing them. So there would be no legal recuperations internationally. After the peace deal is successful, I will tell Luke to move forward and ask them of mana-restoring pills in informal conversations so as to lessen the pressure." After Plato left the royal chambers, King Lionheart sighed and thought, "I guess Plato has already made his decisions on who he is going to support and whom he would not in the future. Hector is quite troublesome. I guess I had to make this decision since this concerns the mana-restoring pills. Well, this ordeal will harden Hector to live in realities and take decisions accordingly. I guess I can give some good news to the elders." Chapter 268. During this time, there was a lot of ruckus in the prison barracks when the assassins from the Radiant Church tried to head towards Antonio's room. In doing so, they had dealt with a lot of guards. The head Templar assassin gravely spoke as he noticed the differences. "It is quite odd that there is such big security this time around. I heard that even the king wanted to get rid of this bastard, didn't he? Or was our information wrong from the outset?" The deputy shook his head and spoke, "No, unexpectedly, the security this time around is provided by Prince Felix's ministers, as they intend to target Prince Hector with this scandal, and Antonio is one of the keys to this big scandal. I guess those ministers took this decision with their own initiative." The head Templar assassin, Neo, sighed and spoke, Ah, I guess those ministers would always think about their interests in the first place. That idiot Hector is always creating more problems for everyone. But those ministers are even bigger idiots to stop this assassination. Anyway, we have already created quite a big commotion in getting rid of those troublesome men, so hurry up and find his prison to get rid of him as soon as possible. After some time, a scout from the Radiant Church arrived and informed the boss, "Boss, we found Antonio's room. It is on the east side, but there are some guards, so we need to be careful when we head there." The head Templar assassin nodded his head and gave orders, "Okay, first gather everyone up. We are heading there straight. We should complete this mission as soon as possible. I am getting an ominous feeling about this mission. Check out for the traps if there are any, and make sure if it isn't a double of Antonio, or else our men would just die in vain in completing this mission." The deputy spoke with assurance, "You don't need to worry about that. I have already confirmed that there is no double of Antonio. However, we need to be careful about Plato. He is making a lot of moves against our pawns in the royal court recently. So we need to complete this assassination as soon as possible, because I am sure he will immediately mobilize his men if he gets a hint of our activities." The head Templar assassin Neo spoke as he sensed changes in the barracks. "We shouldn't worry about political battles in royal court, it's the job of head priests and bishops. I am only worried about real battles, and this time my instinct is telling me that there will be a hard battle ahead. It is as if someone is watching us and waiting to make a move. I feel like a pawn in the big scheme controlled by invisible strings. I hope I am incorrect." Meanwhile, Antonio was wondering about the change in behavior of the guards after the guards received an official letter from the defense minister. He thought, "I wonder if it is because of Lord Felix's interference? Or is there something else in play that I don't know about? Anyway, it is for the better. As long as I can leave legally, I will make sure to drag Hector down with me." Suddenly 3 guards outside his prison fell down one by one. When the assassins from the Radiant Church entered, they were in full black-colored clothes in contrast to Radiant Church's pure white clothes. They had a completely different and murderous aura which revealed that they weren't new to this kind of work. One of the men almost misspoke as soon as he entered, "Head Templar boss, as we found out earlier, he is here. How do we proceed?" The head nodded and gave his signal, "Identify and finish him off as soon as possible, and yes, leave no witnesses alive." One of the escorts of Antonio from Sky sighed and spoke, "I guess we finally had to make a move, and it had to be this guy." The other guy next to him murmured, "Well, it can't be helped. We just need to protect him. Let our men deal with the Templars. From the looks of it, it doesn't look like they have noticed our presence in the room." However, as soon as the head Templar assassin gave his order, sudden sounds of gunfire and loud screams from the Templar assassin could be heard, which immediately created panic among the Templars. The subordinates watching the eyes of head Templar immediately nodded and head towards Antonio, who was in chains alongside a bed, to complete their task. Meanwhile, Antonio, who watched the commotion, gritted his teeth and understood that they were the infamous Templar assassins who did the dirty work of Radiant Church. Antonio shook his head and murmured, "It seems it wasn't Prince Felix who changed the attitude of Defense Minister. I wonder who it was." As soon as they moved, 2 men who were hidden in chambers immediately moved as they targeted the Templars with ease with their guns and knives. Head of the group, W.D.S from Sky, who was protecting Antonio, sighed and spoke, "I really hate protection and escort jobs. I will make sure Diril pays me well this time around." The other guy smiled and spoke as if he was taking a stroll in a park, "Well, you couldn't reject this work because of the mouth-watering reward. Not to mention, it was Vlad who gave out the job. Well, more than the reward. It was a connection with Lord Vlad and King John that mattered more this time around. Well, I took this job in the first place because of the future benefits." W.D.S nodded and spoke as he fired his gun, AI, don't act cocky just because you have these new toys. It has only made our job easier, you shouldn't rely on them too much and lose your instincts. As for the reward, I have to do it for my men. Anyway, kill these pests from the Radiant Church." They are acting quite cocky these few days even after getting a thrashing in the previous war. I guess it's that BTCH Irmela who has emboldened them. The other partner looked at the head of Templar assassins with a grave face and spoke, I think it might be tough this time around with that guy coming in personally to deal with Antonio. It seems the Radiant Church really has a good motive to kill Antonio this time around and make Hector the scapegoat via public opinion. I wonder what are they planning? Perhaps a civil war using Hector i.e. wage war legally and take control of the whole region by using Felix. It will be a tough fight without using our transformations. W.D.S smiled and murmured, no wonder, our Lord made a deal with Plato and Lionheart despite being wronged previously. I guess he is looking at the bigger picture for now. W.D.S smiled as he looked at his gun and spoke with a mischievous smile to the other guy, as for the difficulty? Nah, it would be different this time around compared to our previous battles. I was only kidding previously when I said that we shouldn't rely on these toys. The magic bullets are indeed overpowered items. W.D.S smiled towards Neo and asked him, I wonder why you are personally participating in killing this minor character? What does he have on the Radiant Church that your heads are willing to send you out personally? Neo had a grave face as he heard W.D.S's partner and murmured, King John, he and his men are indeed troublesome as mentioned by Pope David and Lord Irmela's oracle. These guys are indeed the biggest sinners for Radiant Church. Looking at the current situation, no wonder Lord Irmela sent us the previous oracle. This generation anyway belongs to the Radiant Church after the previous oracle and you ought to die by our hands just like the previous sinners. As for the other guy, why do I feel a brutal aura around him? Maybe I am imagining things. Neo looked at W.D.S with and spoke, you don't need to know why we want to kill him. If you want the answers you can ask it from Prince Hector. I wonder how you would be able to save him when I personally take charge. W.D.S laughed mockingly and spoke, humph, your Radiant Church wouldn't send you to do this job if it was only for Hector's mission. Ignoring W.D.S's words, Neo looked at his subordinates as all of them communicated via using their eyes. All the 7 Templars moved directly to surround the 2 men protecting Antonio, intending to target Antonio with their full force. The Templars sensed that both of the men protecting Antonio were demons. Without waiting for W.D.S's order, the intensity of the firing increased from outside while both W.D.S and his partner started shooting their guns towards the Templars who came near them. One by one, the Templars who were using the light shield got their fatal parts injured and started dodging the bullets with sheer instinct only. One of the Templars roared as he got his hand injured while trying to defend himself, damn, what are these heretic things? Even the light shields can't protect us? If I return alive I will make sure to kill every demon I see in the future. Another Templar spoke hurriedly as he was losing blood from his abdomen, hurry up and use your most fatal attacks. We can't fail this mission. Headquarters have given strict warnings to complete this mission. We can't afford to fail this mission. Neo furrowed his brows as even his divine armor, which was lighting up with runes, got a dent from the multiple gunshots. He got his special knives, which were laced with a special poison, attack him together on my call. Watching the baleful knife of Neo laced with poison, W.D.S's partner almost got a chill instinctively. Almost immediately at the call of Neo, all the Templars attacked the 3 of them with their most powerful attacks at the same time. W.D.S got his magic bullet and also fired it at the same time towards Neo, who was firing the poison-laced knife towards Antonio. Watching W.D.S's gun, Neo got goosebumps as if he would lose his life if this duel was completed. But as he had no time to waste, he fired the knife without thinking towards Antonio. Suddenly a huge firing shot was heard from W.D.S's gun, the magic bullet immediately pierced Neo's armor and burst inside his body. Neo was in disbelief when he watched this scene and remembered the higher-ups' warning in regards to facing the soldiers of Sky. At the same time, W.D.S too took a recoil from his gun and got pierced by the poison-laced knife as he had moved to protect Antonio. Blood could be seen coming out of his mouth as he immediately started firing his gun towards the other Templars who were targeting Antonio. W.D.S's partner too came out of his daze as he immediately came in the front and started firing his gun and poison towards the Templars, he roared in anger as he saw W.D.S and took a bottle of potion which he had kept safely all this time. "You guys really forced me to reveal this." Immediately after he drank the potion, it seemed as if his shackles were broken. Scales and horns started growing on his head as an aura of brutal slaughter could be seen emanating from him. W.D.S sighed as he saw their perilous situation and murmured, "It seems we still had to use our trump cards." W.D.S took out a bottle of antidote from his pocket and took it to suppress the poison and stabilized his footing. The injured Neo was shocked beyond words. He saw the potion and the transformation of the man. He immediately gave an order to his men, "It's the mad berserker, leave immediately. You guys won't survive this fight." One of the subordinates of Neo exclaimed, "The mad berserker from the Fire Abyss Kingdom? Wasn't he wanted by one of the prominent families at Fire Abyss Kingdom?" Chapter 269. However, it was too late to leave as the mad berserker took the magic bullets, started aiming and fired the gun onto their heads immediately. There was a look of horror in the faces of Templars the moment when the magic bullets immediately pierced the heads of all the Templars present in the prison. It was as if their light shield was invisible to the magic bullets. A completely powerless feeling came into their bodies for the very first time since they joined the Templar assassins over the year. Their heads burst as soon as the magic bullets got in contact with their bodies and splattered blood all over the prison. There was complete silence as all the Templars fell one by one. Understanding the helpless situation, the head assassin Neo gave a signal via a rune on his wrists which created a commotion among the Templars who were fighting outside. One of the Templar heads who was blocking the men outside the prison immediately gave an order after watching the rune lit up, "Leave as fast as possible, it's the highest order of head Templar Neo, all the other Templars have fallen inside. The enemy is too strong to kill. We have to leave as soon as possible and bring the information to the headquarters. We can't get captured." The mad berserker too exclaimed after watching the bullets directly piercing the heads of assassins so easily, "Ah, it seems even the accuracy of my archery and shooting improves in my transformation stage. It seems I had a misconception that only my strength and decision-making powers were affected. I better capture him alive if this is the case." From this, it can be seen that my instincts are better in the transformation stage. Watching the actions of Neo, Du roared towards the mad berserker, "Quick, capture him alive. He is more valuable if he is alive." "Arg, forgive me Lord Irmela, I couldn't finish your mission. Curse you sinners, you will be waiting for hellfires in death." However, Neo had already taken out his poison-laced knife and pierced his own heart while roaring the name of Lord Irmela. Neo mockingly laughed at the duo, "By defying Lord Irmela, you sinners are only prolonging your inevitable fate and punishment. Even if I have fallen here, more will come to claim the heads of all of you sinners. I hope you haven't forgotten the fate of those who defied the Oracle in the previous crusades." He. Du was scared as he knew how the Radiant Church worked. Du smiled and spoke, "Well, it doesn't matter, you think our demon gods will be sitting ducks when your gods descend? This time we have already found the portal of the underworld and avatars, so our gods too will descend if Irmela wreaks havoc on this continent." Neo had a pale face as he Du-X and regretted making a suicide as he could inform the church about demon gods. Du gave his orders in a calm voice to their mates in prison and mad berserker, "Let's clean this up and go back to report. I hope Plato is satisfied with this operation." One of Plato's generals who knew the situation came in as soon as the Templars were killed. He saluted to Neo and spoke as he gave some documents to Neo to verify, "You guys don't need to clean this up. You can go back immediately. We will take care of the aftermath. However, you have to make sure that you guys can't report this event on your media, i.e. the newspaper publisher. You should know the power of your media. Some of our men will escort Lord Antonio back to Dolores. However, Lord Antonio can't leave the borders with you and this event has to be covered up." Du nodded as he saw the documents as he signaled his men to back off without revealing their identities and masks. Du gave a note which had a set of names to the general and spoke, "According to the agreement, you have to release these men who are in your prison on charges of spying. Our Lord will reciprocate the same by allowing your first ships in our docks for the families to get back the soldiers and meet their loved ones. Your spies too can be granted freedom based on your list." Mad Berserker, who had calmed down after Du's call, whispered to Du in his ear, "Shouldn't we keep this conversation a secret?" Plato's general too had a green face as he wanted to keep this conversation a secret. He sighed and thought, "I guess there are things which are inevitable. These nobodies really created a country." As the soldiers came in the prison barracks to clean up the mess, they were horrified to see such a scene of carnage and started whispering, "So many people managed to infiltrate the prison barracks? What the hell is happening here?" Another soldier who knew the ins and outs of the imperial court whispered, "I guess this is a fight between two lords which escalated to this situation. I wonder if this is related to Lord Hector and Lord Jabal, or it might be Prince Felix fighting for Antonio." Plato's general had already received orders from Plato to clean up the prison guards who didn't used to follow their rules and used this opportunity to put their own men in the prison to control the imperial prison. Plato's general Gildan smiled a bit and roared sternly, "Who is in charge of this prison?" The lower-ranking guards looked at the direction of their officer in charge. And one of them whispered, "Doesn't he have the backing of the ministers of imperial court? What the hell is happening today? I guess Lord Plato is going to use this opportunity to reinstate his own men again. It seems he has already started targeting the corrupt officials first and started strengthening his power." Du too was watching the scene from the sides and smiled as he thought, "Looks like Plato really is intending to clean up and take some control back from the ministers from Hector's side." Chapter 270. Meanwhile, Prince Hector got the information about the failure of operation from his men and one of the local heads of the church. He roared at his guards and asked, "What the hell is Alistair doing? How the heck did the Templars fail such an easy mission with such sort of funding? Are all of my subordinates this incompetent?" One of the head spies from Prince Hector's maternal family spoke a bit cautiously, "Lord, from our information, it seems some of the ministers and princes support Lord John and are trying to gain his favor. I have heard that Prince Jabal is even trying to contact Lord John for his vast information network as well as his contacts with demons and other species. And it seems you have lost Lord Plato's favor because he seemed to have figured out our last conspiracy which started the rebellion and war of Lord John. From our information, he was very angry when he got a detailed report on the causes and effects of the start of war and rebellion by Lord John. Lord Plato believes that Lord John wouldn't have rebelled if we didn't put him the corner and if he had no choice nor any good opportunity. He believes that Lord John used your greed and Duke Fjord's greed /U0026 revenge to start a righteous rebellion. He believes that from the way John was prepared with his weapons and ammunitions, Lord John was already prepared for war /U0026 rebellion and deliberately incited our greed as well as the greed of the imperial court to put himself in a corner which Lord John cunningly used to start a rebellion with the support of his ministers and all the people at North Frontier City. Plato guesses that Lord John already had the weapons and waited for such a long time because he wanted the support of people and wanted them to see the greediness of Elias via his printing press and newspapers. He believes it was quite a big political maneuver by Lord John to secede successfully without any big problems internally. Lord Plato currently wishes for a harmonious relationship with the Sky Kingdom so as to root out Radiant Church and not make two enemies at the same time. His Majesty also came to the same conclusion after watching the detailed on Lord John's rebellion, and he is of the same opinion as Lord Plato. He doesn't want two big enemies at the same time, i.e. Radiant Church internally and the Sky Kingdom externally. The spy hesitated a bit and spoke, "His Royal Highness, the family believes that you reconcile with Lord John for now so as not create any problems for the family, and even General Endo is missing from the last war." Keeping his emotions in check after hearing the report, Prince Hector ordered him, "You can go for now, I will give my answer to the family later on. And bring Alistair to my room as soon as he comes to the manor." As soon as the spy from his mother's family left the manor, Prince Hector slammed the wine glass at the table as he recalled the report in anger and roared, "Damn it, all of them traitors! These guys surely won't have a good end. They dare to ditch me when I am down. All of them want to support that inferior lowly merchant and want me a royal prince to reconcile with that rebel. I will have to discuss with Alistair on how to reject them. Anyway, that damn merchant and I can never reconcile in this life from the way he tarnishes my reputation. Those damn nobles even dare to mock me behind my back because of that newspaper. This hatred and humiliation can only be washed in blood. Plato got the information about the commotion at barracks from his disciples, so he immediately mobilized his men to be prepared if any actions were taken by Prince Hector or his ministers at the imperial court. The first thing he did was to immediately schedule a meeting with the finance minister Joel, as he knew that the finance minister was in quite a tense situation because of the previous war and deficits for various departments, from which the most important was the agricultural department, which was in shortage of skilled farmers and funds for tools. The finance minister Joel and defense minister Plato were in finance minister's office for a meeting. Looking at finance minister's busy and angry face, Plato smiled a bit and spoke, "It seems you are quite busy these days. It must be quite hard raising funds for your proposed policies and the luxuries of princes." "Right." He furrowed his brows and spoke angrily, "Are you here to mock me? And whose fault is that? The warmongers from the army have ruined all of my planning and policies for the next 10 years. Humph. If you have no business, then piss off. I am already quite busy on squeezing all the villages and cities for funds. I might as well impeach a few nobles who have offended me in the past to raise some funds for the treasury." The finance minister Joel murmured in a very soft voice, "It would have been better if you had won the war against them and plundered. Anyway, I should first target the corrupt heads of departments to raise more funds." Expecting this answer from him, Plato made a deliberate sad expression and spoke, "I understand your dilemma, and that is why I am here to reduce your problems. We were successfully able to agree on a deal with Marquis John, no, King John, now he is a king. However, there are currently some problems where you have to help me." Plato deliberately paused and waited for him to ask. Understanding Plato's tone, the finance minister nodded and asked, "What sort of problems are you facing? Do you need any help? Are there any ministers who are blocking this deal because of their usual kickbacks? If the deal with Lord John is concluded, I will be personally supporting you so that my policies can be implemented and my position remains safe. Otherwise, we will come to a standstill for the next 3 to 4 years just to recover because of the last war. Just no war with Sky is good enough, as it won't squeeze our funds." Plato nodded and spoke, "That's true. I will get straight to the point. I want you to attack and stop the ministers supporting Prince Hector in the court tomorrow when cooperation with Sky is raised. They will be hindering our plans to conclude this deal, and so would the Radiant Church /U0026 their pawns after the plans for this deal are announced. The very fact that medicines from Sky can be bought cheap as compared to the services of the Radiant Church will be affecting the influence of the Radiant Church. We can also earn quite a sum when we redistribute those medicines in Elias. You must attack them for the previous war, which was instigated by Prince Hector, and tell the court that all the concerned polices will have to be scrapped due to lack of funds, resources, and manpower. Make your proposal short but understandable so that His Majesty and ministers have a good reason to support your proposal." The finance minister thought for a moment and spoke, "My position will be in jeopardy if we can't recover from this, so I am going all in for this. Okay, I will be using my influence and speak with other ministers and lords who have it hard in their domains. I will be personally speaking in court and blame the warmongers, so your lot needs to be prepared for defense as well. You guys can divert the blame to Prince Hector's conspiracy because of personal vendetta putting our nation and economy in jeopardy. And yes, I want you to help me nab down the corrupt heads of various cities and villages so that I can raise funds for the treasury." Finance Minister Joel continued, "As for the pawns of Prince Hector and Felix, I will simply threaten them with corruption and tax evasion charges so that they get on the defensive. They have evaded taxes on a lot of items for quite a long time anyway. This time I will like to see how they act arrogantly. I will prepare a good and fine net for them tomorrow." Plato nodded satisfyingly as he was able to bring the finance minister on his side. He spoke, "Good, so I reckon our deal is completed. Here is a copy of my negotiations with Lord John. If you want to amend anything or add any particular clause, please do so. Tomorrow there will be a showdown at the court, so we have to be prepared. 2 days later I will be personally going to Skye to conclude this deal with Lord John. You too can come if you want. I want to meet him personally so that I can gauge him. As for targeting the heads of departments, I will be sending my disciple to help you. Plato left after a long meeting was concluded. Both Plato and Joel had big smiles on their faces as they achieved their objectives. Joel too sighed as he had no choice but to grab this chance and read the details on the negotiations with Skye. He murmured, "I guess I too have no choice but to cooperate with Plato in this endeavor. It seems we didn't lose quite a lot in our negotiations with Skye as we expected. The only variable is the printing press, which can attack any ministers other than royalty. Medicines will be able to ward off the influence of the Radiant Church, so we shouldn't be worried much about them. This will anyway create a showdown between Radiant Church and the Skye Kingdom. As far as the selling of people is concerned, it shouldn't be much. We have loads of slaves who aren't productive enough. I should start visiting the ministers and prepare for tomorrow's showdown. I wish I had more time to scrutinize this deal. Anyway, I can read it on my way."